So welcome. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honour and privilege to welcome you all here today to this critical conference. This conference is born out of the active and purposeful partnership between my colleagues and I from the University of East London and the Racial Justice Advocacy Forum. The partnership is something that we at East London, the University of East London, are incredibly proud of. The partnership is underpinned by a series of shared values: social justice and equity, faith-informed scholarship and activism, inclusivity and intersectionality, education and awareness, ethical leadership and responsibility, community engagement and empowerment, reconciliation and healing, sustainability and long-term commitment. We are delighted that this event builds upon our recent successful written and oral submission to the United Nations Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in Geneva in August 2024, and our forthcoming work on Article 14, an optional complaints mechanism which gives individuals the legal right to complain to the United Nations directly if their rights under the Convention have been violated. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is aimed at confronting one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the rise of far-right extremism and its intersection with issues of race and religion. We are in the midst of an era where the voices of hate and division are becoming louder, more mainstream, and more sophisticated. These forces are reshaping our societies, both in the UK and around the world. In this context, our work today is not just important, it is urgent. As we explore these issues, we must consider not only the national context, but also the international implications of this dangerous rhetoric. The far right today operates within a global network of ideas, networks, and technologies that transcend borders, making this a challenge that cannot be addressed in isolation. The UK has long prided itself on being a multicultural society, enriched by generations of migration and shaped by its colonial past. However, this history has also been marked by deep tensions, from Enoch Powell's Rivers of Blood speech to the Brexit debates of recent years. Race and religion have been weaponized to divide communities and stoke fear. More recently, we have witnessed the mainstreaming of far-right rhetoric in public discourse. Politicians and media outlets have deployed the terms like invasion to describe refugees, culture wars to dismiss legitimate concerns about racism, woke as a pejorative for social progress. These are not just words. They shape policies, influence elections, and in the most extreme cases, inspire acts of violence. The far right has evolved. Where once we saw street-based movements like the National Front, today we see a digital-first radicalization process where conspiracy theories spread online faster than ever. From white nationalist influencers on YouTube to Telegram channels spreading misinformation, online spaces have become battlegrounds for ideological warfare. But far-right extremism does not operate in isolation. It is part of a transnational network where ideas, tactics, and even funding flow across borders. In the United States, the storming of the Capitol on January 1st, 2021, demonstrated how far-right extremism can threaten democracy itself. In France and Germany, we see political parties gaining ground by capitalizing on anxieties over migration and Islam. In India and Brazil, ethno-nationalist movements have used religious identity to justify exclusion and violence. The UK is not immune to these global currents. The rhetoric of Trumpism, the tactics of European far-right parties, and the rise of ethno-religious nationalism worldwide have all influenced domestic debates in the UK and Ireland. Understanding these global linkages is crucial if we are to develop effective counter-narratives and policy responses. However, over the past decade, we have witnessed a concerning shift. The far right has gone from being a fringe movement to a force that has begun to shape public discourse. The UK, like many countries, is grappling with significant demographic changes. economic instability and political turbulence. As these pressures mount, the far right has capitalized on xenophobic rhetoric and anti-immigrant sentiments. Words like invasion, often used to describe migration, and phrases like us and them have been used to fuel fears around race and religion. These terms are not just divisive, they have real-world consequences. We have seen this rhetoric used to justify hate crimes and violence against minorities, especially Muslims, immigrants and other marginalised communities. We are now in an age where hypocrisy is the operating system of racism. The 2019 Christchurch shooting, which was inspired by the far right, was a horrific reminder of how these ideas have deadly consequences. The UK has not been immune to such violence, as incidents like the Finsbury Park attack and the rise in Islamophobic hate crimes in recent years make clear. In the UK, we've also witnessed the rise of political figures who have employed far-right language. Their rhetoric is designed to stoke fear, dividing communities along the lines of race, religion, and national identity. Leaders have used inflammatory language around Brexit, immigration, and Islam, often to rally their base while othering large sections of the population. And some of them look like me and you. The media plays a significant role here. Sensationalist headlines and the portrayal of migrants and refugees as threats to national security have amplified far-right narratives. This is not an accident. It is a deliberate strategy to create divisions. Whilst we are witnessing the rise of far-right extremism here in the UK, this is by no means a local issue. This is part of a global phenomenon where far-right movements are gaining ground in countries as diverse as the United States, Brazil, Hungary, and India. In the US, the storming of the Capitol in January 2021, driven in part by far-right extremists whose language around immigration and nationalism mirrored the rhetoric we hear in the UK. Likewise, in Europe, far-right political parties are gaining strength, particularly in response to issues like migration and the fear of Islamic extremism. Countries like Hungary and Poland are witnessing the rise of ethno-nationalist rhetoric, which is explicitly anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, and often deeply hostile to minorities. Across the globe, social media has become a key tool for the far right. Through platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram, extremist ideologies are spreading rapidly. The digital sphere has allowed these movements to network, share propaganda, and recruit. Online platforms have also facilitated the creation of echo chambers where conspiracy theories thrive and hate speech is normalised. What we are witnessing is a transnational far right that shares ideas, tactics, and sometimes even funding. This globalization of hate means that the fight against far-right extremism cannot be confined to national borders. We must think globally if we are to tackle this challenge effectively. The power of rhetoric in shaping political discourse and public opinion cannot be overstated. Language is a tool that can either unite or divide. Unfortunately, far-right leaders have mastered the art of using language to stoke fear and resentment. We have seen it in the UK, where terms like foreigner, invader, terrorist, and cultural erosion are weaponized to demonize entire communities. These terms are that dehumanize, making it easier for violence to occur. We see it in the US with phrases like "Make America Great Again," which implicitly calls back to a time when whiteness was central to the identity of the nation. And we see it across Europe, where far-right parties use language that explicitly rejects multiculturalism in favour of ethno-nationalism. These terms shape perceptions and foster division. They fuel a narrative that we must reject if we are to build inclusive societies. The role of rhetoric cannot be underestimated in the rise of far-right extremism. As we gather today to discuss these critical issues, it is vital that we recognise the importance of collective action. The fight against far-right extremism is not a simple one. It requires cooperation across borders, disciplines and sectors. In the UK, we must strengthen our laws against hate speech, whilst also ensuring that these laws do not infringe on freedom of expression. We must counter the spread of misinformation, particularly online, and hold social media platforms accountable for their role in amplifying hate. But we also must engage with communities, all communities, to foster understanding and build resilience against extremist ideologies. This is where education becomes crucial. We must educate the next generation to critically engage with information, to challenge prejudice, and to embrace diversity. Internationally, we must build coalitions to tackle transnational far-right movements, sharing intelligence, strategies, and resources. This must be a global response, as extremism knows no borders. The rise of far-right extremism is one of the most urgent challenges we face today. Whether in the UK, Europe, the US, or elsewhere, the consequences of unchecked hate are devastating. However, we have the power to fight back. Confronting far-right extremism is not the responsibility of governments alone. It requires academics, journalists, educators, faith leaders, and activists. It requires all of us. Each of us has a role to play in pushing back against disinformation, standing up to hatred, and fostering spaces for dialogue and inclusion. As we embark on this important conference, I encourage each and every one of you to approach today with 3 commitments. 1, a commitment to truth, to confronting uncomfortable realities with honesty and integrity. 2, a commitment to action, to translating our knowledge into tangible strategies for change. And 3, a commitment to solidarity, to working across disciplines, backgrounds, and ideologies in pursuit of a more just society. The challenges before us are immense, but so is our collective capacity to confront them. Let this conference be a catalyst for deeper understanding, stronger alliances, and meaningful progress, a starting point for new ideas, new collaborations, and a renewed commitment to tackling this threat. Together, we can build a future that celebrates race, religion, and diversity, a future where rhetoric is used to unite, not divide. Thank you.